I don't have the music. Oh, where's my music? Oh, where's
Oh
the
no, I
music? Oh
don't
no,
use
the music, you guys. Where's the music?
it. I got them all flabbergasted.
Kristina Smallhorn does it every time. Hi, from Oregon to Louisiana.
Yeah,
How the heck are you?
I'm doing good. Travis, ready to talk
Yeah,
about some real estate stuff here going on.
yeah. There's still some real estate stuff, I guess. Right? Are people still buying and selling homes? Is that a thing?
Oh my gosh, you know what? It's actually gotten crazier, right? So, in the last week, there has been an influx of first-time home buyers that have been sitting on the fence, right? Because the home prices were really high. When it made it even worse was the interest rates were equally as high. And it made them go, well, we're not going to do this. I mean, we need a house. Home prices are high. So hopefully we're going to wait. We're going to wait it out and see how low the prices go. Well, interest rates stayed up for quite some time and home prices still went up. They didn't go up as high. Now, like we're talking like 2.5, I think is what the national average was, like 2.5% from last year at this time. But
Yeah.
that's still increasing. They didn't plummet to the ground like the gurus promised them. You know, the I call them the housing crash bros. The housing crash bros were like, oh, they can't wait for it all. It's all going to burn down 30%, 40% next year at this time. Well, it didn't happen. So then the interest rates come down, and those people that have been sitting on a fence and paying more in rent than they've ever had in their lifetime are like, forget it. We're not waiting for prices to crash. We're going to go ahead and buy a house. Interest rates now are like, they were my interest rate. My loan guy was doing like 5.8 last week. Tying them all up. So, and it looks like that's the trajectory for for a little while. It's like we're going to be in the mid fives to high fives for a little bit. So, well, it's interesting to see what's going to happen. It seems to me that pent up demand is now like going to be opening up the floodgates into a housing market. I was talking to my friend Jackie Baker out of New Jersey housing market, and she said it's starting all over again. We already started the bidding wars, and I said this is the part that really sucks because I talk about affordable housing and affordable housing options. If we inflate that price of the average starter home again, and it starts this whole bidding war again, what is that going to do for future generations? It's already, most millennials say buying a home is not even attainable in my price range. It's not even a thought. I can't even think of that because it's not there. There's no way I could ever buy a home. And a lot of that is like they don't understand that there's other government backed programs and you don't have to put down 20%. But some of it is the fact that like they have a good job, they have really good credit. They've never been late on a payment, but the home prices are so incredibly high that they can't afford it. So
Totally.
that's
Yeah.
I'm very concerned, very, very concerned for that the most affordable homes in the United States are going to be the ones that are going to be the so-called starter home. It's just going to be unattainable. I worry about that.
Well, and then what about? This is awfully early in our conversation to go here, but what about the 110 million or billion or gajillion dollars that private companies are trying to fundraise and pull together to buy homes?
Right. So, was it? I think there was it was part of Citigroup or there's a bunch of them. They're now ganging up together. They're making like little super PACs for buying up as much property as possible. They put a pause on it last year, and everybody's like, "Oh, you see, they're pausing. They're pausing until." But that's what they do in the third quarter. They rate it back to figure out to regroup on how they're going to invest next year. Then it was announced what they were going to do. They're going to hold off. They were holding off over $1 billion in some of these groups to put into the real estate market this year. So that, like if that, that's the part, like they are buying the most affordable houses in the United States. That's what they're doing. They're buying them in all sorts of areas, not just hot button areas. They're buying them all over the place. And I've been saying this for 2 years that I truly believe that the big goal is that like if you're going to work for Amazon, right? Your whole family works for Amazon. You're renting your house from Amazon and then it automatically comes out of your check. which was something they used to do back in the olden days with like coal companies and steel companies. You rented the house that you were living in while you worked for that specific company, which really stinks because then they know they got you by the, you know what, right? Because if you can't just decide to leave because you're renting a house and where you're going to go, right? And they know that, and they like the control over the worker. The fact that a lot of workers have said, I'm out of here. You guys suck. You're giving terrible benefits. I'm going to go find somewhere else to go. That is making them very upset because they can't control it anymore like they used to. So they're going to find a way to control it. That's my
opinion. Well, and I had the opportunity to go to Dubai several years ago. Gosh, it was maybe 2016. And we happened to be at the mall. They've got like, I can't remember the name of the mall, but it's this huge mall, right? And we happened to be there at closing time. And it was so weird because all the workers kind of walk out, like all the little Apple Store people are together and all the American Eagle people are together, and they're all walking out. And I was talking to them because that's just what I do. And I'm like, well, why are you guys all, oh yeah, the van's going to pick us up. Like, what van? Oh, well, we all kind of, we all go back to the housing together. And there's like 8 or 10 of them. They all get in a van and it drives to the part of town that's not all glitzy and, beautiful and done up. And that's where they live. And I was like, wait, what?
Have you seen this thing called The Line?
No. What's the line?
So you like do a quick Google search. I mean, I know so in there was a concept that was brought about called The Line, and it shows this basically a housing neighborhood that's mirrored on each side. It's in the desert, but inside the line is it's a community that they have made within this desert, and it's only like buildings basically on each side with a road in the center, and everything you'll need is only in this like little cubed in area, and it will have a light rail that goes through all the way across. I forget how long it is. So yeah, only 200 meters wide and 170 meters long, with 500 meters above sea level. So it's just one straight line, and everybody lives in it.
Whoa.
Creepy, right? And so it doesn't look offensive, like a city would. It blends in with the natural landscape. They mirrored it on each side. Like, what could go wrong with having a mirrored object in the middle of the desert? That doesn't sound dangerous at all.
Especially not for the wildlife.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. So yeah, and so everything you'll need is a walkabout distance. And I thought it was just a concept. They're actually literally doing it. They're sending out they're starting to dig it all out. They're doing it. They're going to actually do it.
They're accelerating human progress. No, I can't actually.
And they're like, everything you'll need is in the line. It's eco-friendly. Everybody's going to be happy in the line. Like the whole thing is like very, the Matrix sounding, like I thought it was like just a concept. And then when they like were showing that they're actually going out there and doing this, I was like, Kristina says no.
I might just sign. I just have to know more about. I might just be live streaming with you from the line soon.
No, I'm not going. I won't go out there.
Wait, there's
absolutely not. No.
They're making an octagon. Wait, so they're look at.
They're all concepts, But the thing is, it's all like in the Middle East. I don't think that's necessarily the safest place for the female gender.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, you can go. I'll stay here in the safety of my backyard in my little puppy. Yeah, we can do this live stream. You can do it from the line. You may not make it back alive, but
something tells me that with my American entrepreneur spirit, I will. Yeah, because I'll ask the questions. I'll be like, hey, why are we doing this?
Yeah, you can. I officially cannot. I'll end up without a tongue on the way home.
It makes me think of those Pirates of the Caribbean movies when they go down the line and one of the pirates had lost his tongue for, whatever it was. It's kind of ridiculous and silly, but terrifying at the same time.
Because it's true.
Because it is true. Yeah.
Living in Palm Springs says, I've been reading about the line. Not sure where where in the desert is it going to be located. If you look at the update,
Yeah.
there's an update, and it literally shows exactly where it's. Like there's articles out there that show the new where it's going to be. But yeah, they're gonna put they're really gonna do it. It's a real thing. But the
Yeah.
thing is that for the longest time we were told this story that like, you know, we're gonna have this overpopulation. So they like jumped on this overpopulation, and they're trying to solve that overpopulation. Well, now they're like, oops, we were wrong about that. People aren't having babies like we thought. We're not overpopulated. We won't be, by the way. Sorry. Oopsie, little data mistake. We weren't accounting
Yeah.
for the fact that if we squeeze enough money out of people, they're not going to want to have children.
Right. Because it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Like I often wonder about families who have, lots of kids and such. It's really hard. It's tough.
My
It's
kid is
challenging.
20. She just turned 20. And she's like, Mom, you know, I love my boyfriend. I want to get married one day. And she goes, I don't think I want kids. I'm like, then don't have them. There's nothing in the rule book that says you have to have them. She's like, you're not mad? I'm like, no, but don't tell your grandma, because she's going to be like, it's the best thing you've ever had in your life. You know, like, you do you. Don't let anybody tell you what you need to do.
Right. True. So true. Okay. So I often think about that, right? It's 20. They lived through like their upper teens was the pandemic. They're
Yes.
launching into adulthood.
They
They
graduated high school with no prom,
Yeah.
no graduation.
Yeah, exactly. So this crew, they're coming out and they're probably looking at, oh, okay, let's look at buying a house or something like that. And then they see something like this, starter home prices soaring. What the heck? So
Just
this
what
is
I'm
an interesting
talking
article.
about.
Yeah, this is an interesting article. What's kind of your key takeaway in terms of the starter home component? I mean, obviously there's the companies buying them up.
Right.
But
so what
yeah.
needs to happen, this is my personal opinion. So after World War II, there was an influx of new people coming in from after war, and they were like, yeah, that's it. We're making babies. We're making more Americans because that's what's going to happen. Right. So, but we need to find homes for these people, because there wasn't just, they wanted to spread out. They needed more people living closer to cities, but there wasn't enough housing. So the federal government, working with modular home companies, developed some of these areas that weren't normally developed, and they didn't give the land away, but there was government land that they said to land developers, look, you can develop this land, but that it's going to be for VA only residents, and we're going to build these houses and build them fast. There's been two like well-known neighborhoods. One of them was New Jersey and the other one was in California. Both of them boomed. They were making like literally 127 houses in a week. Like they were jamming them out, but they were modular homes. To this day, those modular homes are still standing. And why this concept of the homes isn't being used today blows my mind, because we do have a housing shortage. Some estimates, like it depends on who you listen to. Some estimates, even prior to the pandemic, was 7 million. During the pandemic, for some reason, it went down to 5 million. I don't know how that happened, but the millennials are having the hardest time finding a house. So if you look at the average age of a person buying a home right now, when we were young, I'm 50 years old. When we were young, the average age of buying a house was 22 to 23 years old. Now it's 32 to 33 years old. That's a 10-year difference. And it's not just because they're failure to launch kind of people. It's a failure of there isn't enough housing for people to buy that actually could afford to buy a house. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And I've been talking about it way before the pandemic. And now it's like, it's so obvious. Now they're like, oh yeah, we got a problem with this. But there was a big argument. I mean, some of the biggest YouTubers were like, the fear of, corporate investors buying up housing in areas isn't that big of a deal. They own less than 2% of the market. They're lying about their numbers. They're truly lying about their numbers. One of the biggest ones is Invitation Homes. Since 2007, they've been saying we own just over 80,000 homes across the United States. You know, as well as I know, that number has got to be quadrupled, right? But they just, to get away with it, they say we own over 80,000 homes across the United States. That number could be quadruple, but we'll never know. I don't know how to find out. Like, I think you have to sit on the board to find out the actual number. But yeah.
Yeah. No, you're
I'm
right.
so
And it's like
passionate
this.
about this, you know, like
Yeah, you are. Well,
I'm fired up.
It's this component of, okay, so here's their website, and it's like, it's just this very corporate way of living, if you will, and it trains people, and they just boom, pay the rent, request my maintenance, I'm good. I have a stable house because it's not a far line for some people. So, at times, it can be
Well, the
tough
way
between having a house
that,
and not.
right. So the way that they're marketing it to younger people is, if you watch their advertising, it's like, you don't want the hassle of getting a home. In this very mobile world, you want to be able to pick up your house and go at any time. You don't want to have the struggle of trying to sell your house and like, they're basically talking about the house being such a hassle, with maintenance, like if you want to move at any time, they're genuinely pooping on the idea of ever owning a house. They keep talking it down, but they have all the solutions for you. And you get this quality brand new house that basically you could move into a brand new house every single year of your life, just like you could lease a car. And you will have all the amenities that you need at your fingertips. All you have to do is pay that monthly fee. Somebody brought up a very good point in one of my videos, and they were like, okay, so here's the thing. How long does it take before they own so much of it that once like the roof starts going under, the paint starts peeling, all those things, and they own the whole entire neighborhood, they are the HOA. How long does it before those homes start looking like total garbage? And I don't know the answer to that. And I caution people that has communities that are thinking about doing this kind of thing, if this is the right thing to do, if this is the right way to go. I think these build to rent communities have their place, but I would not allow for a bunch of them in your area, because I think that's opening up a can of worms where homes become deteriorated. Because as well as I do that if you're renting a house, why would you go out there on a Sunday afternoon and paint a mailbox? Why would you go out there on a Sunday afternoon and fix roofing shingles? That like, you wouldn't do that. There's no pride in ownership. And so over time, that when those things start adding up and there's neglect there, I think that's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, this is interesting. I kind of zoomed in here. This is kind of from where I grew up. So I live in Oregon now, but I lived in Northern California. And just imagining a $2,800 a month home in Cameron Park, not only just to pay that, but that this was a home that, would have been owned by a family and they would have taken great care of it. And I mean, it still looks nice, but it's very, it's all got the 2021, 2022 grays and whites. And it's got, it's you can obviously tell already it has some deferred maintenance. It's not being loved by homeowners who are taking care of it. And it's an interesting thing. So they say they have how many homes? Did they say?
80,000.
80,000.
It's way more than that, way more. And so deferred maintenance for X amount of years, these houses are going to really look bad, and they're going to bring down the neighborhood. So let's just say Invitation Homes has 5 houses. Tricon Homes has another 5 houses. Like, you just have various companies that own that, right? And you're there with your house and you've maintained it. Those properties that are not maintained will bring the property value in a neighborhood down. The more of those properties that are available in your neighborhood that look like garbage, the more your property values go down. So they're in your covenants of an HOA. You can vote to have a cap on how many homes in the neighborhood can be rentals. Most of brand new subdivisions have that already written in their HOA covenants. But if you have an older subdivision, most likely that's probably not in there because that wasn't a thing. Nobody, that wasn't a thing. So
Yeah.
I would suggest, if you do have an HOA, is to go to your HOA meeting and bring this up to them. And if they say, well, that's not really a problem, we shouldn't worry about it. Okay. It may not be a problem now, but it could be a problem in the future. And the way the things are moving and how fast and quickly things are moving, I don't think it's something you should, shelf. I think it's something you need to vote on right now. And I don't think any more than 10% of the neighborhood should be rentals. That's my opinion.
Well, yeah, according to this is the Pew Trust article. I feel like I've seen this one before where we've talked about it. Investors bought 24% of all single family houses sold nationwide last year.
24%. So less, they were saying that it was less than 2% of the market before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now there's 24%.
Yeah. That's a quarter. That's 1 out of every 4.
Right. And I'm not even talking about like mom and pop investors that maybe own maybe 10 houses throughout the community. That's not, I'm talking about these guys who are these invitation homes, these bigger ones that own, like a whole street, a whole block. Because if they own a whole street and a whole block, they can dictate exactly what happens to your neighborhood. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. There's a real estate investor local in town who that's what he's doing. I mean, but it's just one person. And so it's a little bit of a different flair, but that's what he's doing. That's his goal, is to own the whole street.
Well, and that's his, when he has a personal investment in it. He doesn't have a boardroom of people sitting there going, well, let's just do a like lipstick on a pig with the roofing materials. I know we need to replace the roof, but we'll just go ahead and put a few shingles on it and call it a day because they don't care, right? And this guy's like, no, these are my investments. This is my retirement. I'm not gonna let this go to crap. Look, he has a sense of pride. He's gonna be like, look, I own this whole street. He's gonna walk down the street and he's like, I'm the mayor of the street.
Yeah, it's true.
That's different. That is a different type of investor. I just don't like the big ones. I don't like the Blackstones and the Tricons and the America Homes for Rent and there's a million of them now. There's so many, and they have some big names funding them, big names. So they may be called America Homes for Rent, but look who their investors are and who's on their board. That's always interesting to me, because eventually you'll come down to it's either Blackstone or BlackRock or one of these other big investment companies, big hedge funds.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I've never had a client who is one of these people.
You don't think you did?
Right. That's what I was going to say. Is what I know. Like, how do they do it?
So a lot of times when you see them, they'll look at like they'll have like ABC LLC, right? So it's just, they're going to put only 10 houses under this LLC, but it's owned by X, it's owned by Tricon. Yeah, that's how they do it.
So they do it by using the smaller company, if you will.
Sometimes that they know if for instance, if it's in an area that they know there's a lot of regulation, they'll do that. But if it's, there's a lot of places don't have that kind of regulation, so they don't care. They're like, just get it done, just get the deal done, and they just, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because some of the iBuyer program homes that what is it? What was it? Redfin and all them
Open Door
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they kind of dropped the ball. They were trying to flip. Now they're trying to rent. Now they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't rent anymore. Like, they're kind of. But they're like, people are like, oh, they're going to flood the market. No, they're not. They're going to take that and they're going to go over to, the bigger ones that have been doing this for a while. America Homes for Rent. Here, look, we've got this bank of houses all through the Austin, Texas area. You want them? And they're going to go, okay, what's the deal? Let's see them, and then they'll praise them and they'll make them an offer. We'll never see those houses. Never, ever.
Do you think they're just gone? Essentially, that's inventory that's just gone.
Yes, I do. It was okay. So after the last housing crash, this is really interesting. After the last housing crash, there was a bank of houses that were being foreclosed on, like Pop-Tarts. They were just, so they couldn't even get them out so quickly enough. So they would bundle all these foreclosures, the banks would, and give them to investors and say, hey, do something with this because, the government bailed you out. You got us into this mess. Now freaking do something with it.
Mm.
And they were like, shit, what are we going to do with these?
Yeah.
They freaked out too. And they're like, we don't know what to do with them. So for a minute, they sat on them. For a minute, they sat on them. And then that's when it was not Tricon, not American Homes for Rent. It's the other one. Invitation Homes said to them, hey, Blackstone, hey, you could rent these out. Really? We can rent these out? Yeah, you can rent those out. Take those homes, give them to us. We'll show you how to do the whole business plan. And they were like, oh, this is fantastic, right? And they were like, this is so smart. Thank you, Invitation Homes, for all that information. We're going to step back now. We're going to start Tricon Homes over here. So they learned everything they needed to know to get them out of a pickle. And then they started another company over here so they could do it and mirror it and then just keep duplicating it because it made them so much money. Well, a lot of your REITs are attached to these homes too. That's why people are like, oh, get a REIT. This is what your REIT investment is.
Right. Yeah. So I'm curious. So what do you think in terms of the commercial, right? Because the idea used to be that they would buy large commercial spaces. I recently went to downtown Los Angeles. We were staying, we went to concert. We saw Elton John. Yeah, it was so fun. But downtown LA was like skyscraper after skyscraper, completely empty. There's nobody in these buildings right now.
So I think there is going to be a shift. I don't know if you saw but the Biden administration put out almost a year ago now that they wanted to do a more affordability plan, housing affordability plan, but it required rezoning. So they're going to be meeting with certain cities to rezone these areas because like in some areas they have like all these vacant areas that could be used for affordable housing options. Not only that, there's already infrastructure there. Not only that, there's already businesses and everything else that's thriving. So instead of having those office buildings sitting there doing nothing, they're looking into redoing some of them and bringing residential homes, residential living back to the whatever would have been the business district. Now they're not going to overflood it. It's going to be an experimental thing. You're going to see a few buildings like that, but I think it'd be fantastic. I mean, how awesome would that be that you could walk out of your apartment and then go into your office?
Yeah, totally.
Walk right across the street. I would love that. You could also see it as some office buildings have a blended type of thing where instead of being the whole building, like let's just say the whole John Hancock building is nothing but offices, they take part of that building. All the lower levels are offices. Everything above that is apartment complexes. They could do it like that.
Is it what's it called here?
Yes.
Housing supply action plan.
Right. So that's one of the things they were talking about. They also talked about ADUs in the backyard and maybe some tax credits for that. They also talked about modular homes and manufactured home, working with the manufacturer home companies. And they're wanting them to update their code on some of those houses to get them even in more areas so they didn't so they meet like specific code enforcement in all sorts of different states. So like it looks good. I mean, they say a lot of great things. Who knows what that, I mean, a lot of, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you lay on. I don't give two flying flips. A lot of this happens with any kind of politician, Republican or Democrat. I mean, a lot of things sound good, but it doesn't matter unless they're actually doing something. They updated that, I believe in October, and they even had at the mall, they were showing all their different concepts for different types of homes, modular homes, SIPs homes, ADUs, all that kind of stuff. They showed those different models. And in the last update as well, that they said that they were it's gotten to be such a problem with corporate investors that the government now is willing to have a discussion about it. It's so, and they don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it's true.
None of them do, none of them do. And then it's gotten to that point where they're willing to have a discussion about it, which is a good thing. I was like really surprised because a lot of those corporations pay for their campaigns. So I was shocked that they were even willing to have a discussion about it.
Do you think that so the builder confidence is up for like the first time?
I hate that stupid. That is the builders feel icky today. They don't. They just feel so icky. They're not feeling very good. Oh, today the builders feel great. Like why don't we care how they feel? Like honest to God.
Yeah.
And the builders' confidence has been down so long that they like a good portion of those builders got out of the single family housing and went ahead and started building multifamily housing. Well, at some point that's going to end, right? And they're going to need to go back into single family housing. That's going to be a good thing though for people that are renters because it'll bring down the rent, which is, I mean, like rent has gotten so stupid. So I don't know. I hate that builders' confidence. This is the dumbest analytic on the. That is so stupid. The builders feel bad.
They're having a bad day today.
The builders are feeling icky. They think it's gonna all,
What if we do things like make the terms of a mortgage 40 years or that kind of thing?
Have you ever done that? The math on that, the 40-year mortgage?
Mm-mm.
It really doesn't save the homeowner crap. Like, I mean, the amount that you would save a monthly on that payment is so minuscule to add another 10 years. It's really crap. I would never do a loan over 30 years. Never, ever, 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 ever. Because you're literally just paying more interest to the bank. You're paying more money and you're not really, it's just such a waste. It's spinning your wheels. Those last 10 years are not, it's worthless to do it.
Well, Mr. Ramsey says no more than 15 years, right? That's the Dave Ramsey plan. If you can afford it, if you can
lives
swing
in a world that doesn't exist when it comes to people coming up. Like and I think this happens with politicians too, because they think that the world that they lived in when they were that age is the same world there is today, right? They can't see through the shoes of the person that's 20 years old right now. And yeah, that would be possible. But the rate of income that people are getting is the same rate of income that I was getting when I graduated high school in 1992. That it doesn't make sense in this world that we live in today. There is no world that a 20-year-old can live in that they don't have a cell phone payment. There's no world that the 20-year-old lives in today where they can't have internet access. There's no world that a 20-year-old lives in today that they can't be attached to a computer. They have to have transportation. Like all of these things cost money, and you're trying to get an education on top of it all. Like they're like, oh, it's because they drink Starbucks. No, it's because they can't afford healthcare. And then they just literally got so sick, had to go down. And, like all these things are real things that are happening today. And it's not realistic to think that the world that you grew up in when you were 20 is the same kind of world that a 20-year-old is growing up today. It's not even close. And
that's how you the financial piece, though. You got to get the financial. It's $3.99. It's 6-month program.
And he's a classist too, because I talk about affordable housing options, including manufactured homes. Some people call them trailer homes. Some people call them mobile homes. Whatever you want to call them, it's still somebody's home. It's what they can afford, and they're not renting from a landlord, right? Dave Ramsey calls those homes a car you sleep in. It's a car you sleep in, is what he said. How do you even equate those two things? This is people's homes. Like what a trashy classist thing to say. Like when he says that, it literally makes me physically ill. And in here around my area, I live in an area that happens to have lots of manufactured homes. And they actually they're sitting on pieces of land. These houses have increased in value. Now, did they increase at the same value as a house would? Absolutely not. But they still have increased in value. And it's been a great stepping stone for people that are trying to get into the housing market. It allowed them to not have to pay rent. They had a low mortgage payment. They stayed there for several years so they could save for another home. Then they were able to take the little bit of equity they got from that manufactured home and put it into their next house. It is a stepping stone for people, and to trash it and make them sound like they're living in a car. Like, what kind of person is that? That's disgusting. In my opinion, I don't like the dude. Ever since he said that and how he talked to people, that
Yeah.
live in manufactured homes. He's like talking down on them like they're so stupid. And I'm like, you're an a-hole, like the epitome of the class a-hole.
Well, and those are the people who are watching his broadcast. Those are his supporters. Like that's what blows me
Sometimes
away.
though
Sometimes.
they see the light, like young
Mm.
people do not like him. They're like, hey, he said this and he said that, and like this isn't right. And there's a difference in what a younger person is willing to tolerate than people that are our age. They are I think it's funny because when I look at Gen Z, they literally have no to give. They just do not care. And they're like, that's not right. We're not doing that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to work to death when I'm making this salary because then the hopes and dreams I might get a promotion. Oh no, I'm going to work exactly what I was meant to work. And I'm going to walk home because I know that promotion doesn't exist unless I know somebody in the company. Like that is not the world we grew up in. We would never do that. And then the employers are like, they don't want to work. Oh no, that's the job title you gave them. They're going to work the job title you gave them. They're not going to give you one thimble fill of more than that. You are trying to email them on the weekends. You're trying to text message them. They're off the clock, buddy. They're not taking it. We took it. We shouldn't have.
Yeah.
We took it.
No, that's a great point. So the compliant kind of nature or the anti-compliant kind of nature really is one of our strengths, I think, as a culture. Like I think that's one of our, one of the things. So I was in education for a long time. I was a teacher for 15 years. And I got to the point where like I'd have teacher or kids who are, seniors in high school. And I'm like, we need to butt heads. Like you and I need to disagree because if we're seeing the same thing eye to eye and you're always, doing what I say, or I'm always doing, then one of us isn't thinking, and that's not good.
Yep.
Like that's a bad situation for you going forward in your life. So I used to encourage that we would butt heads. And you're right, Gen Z and the millennials, they'll do it verbally, or they'll also just leave. They'll just exit. They'll just that whole ghosting thing, like they're just like, nope.
They call it quiet quitting.
Yeah, quiet quitting. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and like and that term, media makes things so skewed. The term was saying that I'm not going to do any more than I have to. But they made it sound like they're just going to sit at their job and suck a paycheck off of their employer. No, they're going to do the work. They're going to do the work that was required from them, but not one thimble for more. Because would that company do anything for them? I mean, when we were younger, there were pensions available. There were Christmas bonuses. We got vacation time. We didn't pay as much in insurance. There was all these opportunities that do not exist for these younger people. And all they're saying is, why should we do more when these opportunities don't exist for us? So I love them. I think they're hysterical. And I can understand why they're so frustrated, why they can't find a house. Because when I went and bought my first house, I got my first house for $130,000. That house today is like $350,000 in 20 years, in less than 20 years. 20 years. Did it really go up that much in value? No. Is that house worth it? No. The house was not worth it. And
so somebody's going to pay it too. Right?
There's no choice. There's no supply.
Yeah.
What are you gonna like? There's no supply. Either you're gonna buy it or you're gonna rent it. What's your choice at this point? And so then it comes down to like, what you think back and why these people are like this. Like my parents could work on one income and support 4 kids, right? My mom didn't have to work. My dad had a nice job and they had a house, 2-story house, beautiful on the lake. We had a boat, we go all this stuff on one income. That does not exist today. That same job that my dad had, his income would not support the lifestyle that he had at all.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're right. And the younger
That's why they're
generations,
bitter.
yeah, they've caught on to it.
Yeah, they're like, you're selling me a bill of goods that doesn't exist.
Right. So I'm going to do this brand deal. I'm going to do this brand deal on Instagram, and I'm going to, do my own thing, make my own way.
Oh yeah.
They're finding their own ways for sure.
And
what about the van?
That.
Yeah.
The man did not like that.
What
The
about the
van will love
van?
it.
What about the van life? What about the young people who are picking up and living in the vans and going around the country? Do you
How
think that's
exciting
just
is
for the
that?
adventure? Right.
I mean, like, honest to God, that takes some big cojones, right? Where they're just like, you know what? I have a job where I can just sit on my computer and do this anywhere. Why do I need to sit in my homunkin town in the middle of Arkansas and stare at my awful neighbors who are super mean to me? And I hear gunshots going off all the time while they're shooting raccoons. Like, do I have to do that? No, absolutely not. I can get in my van. I'll fix up a van with a limited income. I'll get some good Wi-Fi, and I'm going to explore the United States. I think that is amazing. It reminds me of when I was a kid. I would hear about like the hippies hitchhiking, across the United States. They were going from New York all the way to California just to see what it was all about. That to me is like I would like, and I was younger. I was like, wow, like people trusted people, like wow. And I just thought that was amazing, right? But these
Right.
people have found a different way. Obviously, they're not hitchhiking. They're just going to buy themselves a cheap van and they're going to make their way across the United States. And some of the stuff they've done is super clever. A friend of mine has a YouTube channel where that's what he's done. He's converting vans and he's traveling all around the UK. Him and his girlfriend like have done all these different cool things because I mean, it was the UK lockdown. What are you going to do? Might as well
Right.
get around the van and travel.
That's
You
true.
know?
Yeah. Or you can go to Utah and live for a month in a campground, or you could come. Yeah. Like it's the options. And I think that's one of the creative things. So trying to convince a young person to go from that to a $3,000 a month mortgage on a, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,000 square foot home. That's a big shift. You know what I mean? Culturally for millennials or Gen Z people, or even, Gen Xers.
Right. But they're more willing to look at like options that we would be like, oh, we're not doing that. Right. They're excited about the possibility of structural engineered panels. They're like, oh, I love that. That's a cool idea. I don't need much. Then they're not asking for a lot. It's like some people. I heard this one lady. She goes, the thing is that they need to bring their expectations down. They're not going to get a brand new house. What world do you live in? Most of these people just want a place to live. They would love to have something they could fix up. They're totally fine with that. That's been my experience. And the idea of like maybe a 2 or 3 bedroom house that could be built with a modular home. A lot more younger people are calling me. They're like, I really was thinking about like what you were saying about manufactured homes, and I found a lot that's like right outside my area that will get me to work in no time. I'm thinking about doing that. They are more open to that because there hasn't been any other options available to them. And they're not willing, they're like, I'm not going to spend all that money and be house poor. I'd rather have this house that I can stay in where it has a really big living room and I'm in the woods and I don't have to be bothered by anything. They don't want to be around people.
Right.
They have checked out of the people game.
So is that one of the things you think that we're doing in terms? I mean, obviously prices going up. That the realtor.com article talks about the luxury slumping. Are we just making a bunch of people house poor? Is that part of what's going on?
I think for young people, I think a good portion of them are unwilling to be house poor, but there's another portion of people that have saved all this time and they're like, I'm good. That's what I want. I want to own a house. So it's gonna be interesting to find out exactly what the shift is going to be, especially after I'm concerned if interest rates stay in the 5s during the spring, what's going to happen for those first time home buyer houses, those introductory houses into the market. Some areas are not going to see that problem, I don't think you're going to see Austin, Texas have that problem, but other smaller areas that don't have a lot of new construction around them, they're gonna have that issue. That's what I worry. Kristina worries.
And do you think so? Okay, so here's like the people like myself, right? We just watched the interest rates, and when it came down to 2.25%, we're like, that's where we're at. That's where we bought, and I mean, we could sell. We've got equity, but to move up to the next level, would be just kind of especially at even 5% interest rate. It's an astronomical, month. Yeah, exactly.
Dumb.
So the number of us that bought when it was low, I mean, we're not stuck necessarily,
Nope.
but we're not going to be moving up. Like
And that's the other reason why the supply of houses aren't going to go anywhere. Like, I don't know. You heard the Fed, and the Fed was saying we're gonna have a problem. We're gonna eliminate 1.5 million jobs. Like he just waved his magic wand and he said we're gonna reduce the amount of jobs because that sector has been too hot for too long. Like, did they call up big employers and like, hey, can you lay off about 10,000 people? Is that what happens? Is that how the Fed does it? I don't know.
I guess Apple isn't taking their call because everybody else is laying off people in the tech
Right.
sector, but not Apple for some reason. That's interesting.
Well, he said in a meeting that the whole idea for this is to tamper down the real estate market because it's been too red hot for too long. And if the effects of the housing market will be affected once enough jobs have been eliminated. Right. So that is counting on the fact that the people's jobs that you're eliminating already have a home, right? And you're also counting on the fact that they're going to be upside down and underwater. That's what happened with the last housing boom. These people bought houses with money they didn't have. They were getting 100% financing, and then they would have to short sale their house, and they were walking away, and that's how home prices came down. The difference this time is the people that have been buying houses, they had large deposits. These people have been very vetted. Like the process to purchase a home today, it looks nothing like it did in 2007. And not only that, when they were bidding over asking price, they're like, people are like, they overpaid. But if the house is only worth $300,000, the bank's only to give them $300,000. The $65,000 that they put over, that came out of their own pocket. They gambled it. So if they lose $65,000, they're still ahead. It's fine because they didn't lose anything. They lost their personal wealth. They lost that, but they already did that the minute they signed the dotted line and they handed over the cash. Yeah. It's not like that's going to bankrupt them. That's not the thing that's going to make their house short sale. So, Jan, I know you want it to crumble. I know you want the housing market to crumble, but it doesn't going to look like it did before. And if you think it is, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. We're going to have to see another financial crisis, a massive one, in order for home prices to come down to levels where people think they need to be at. They are wanting home prices to be, 30-40% less than they were a year previous. I can't see what that would be to cause that, unless you lived in an area that had been had so much new construction that it would offset those home prices increases. And we don't have that here. We just don't have that here.
Yeah, we don't have that here in Oregon either. But like maybe Boise, maybe Phoenix, like maybe some of those metro areas.
Right. But I still don't see it going back to the prices that were prior to the pandemic. That to me doesn't make sense. Right. Will they see a deduction in home prices? Sure, absolutely. But is it going to be, pre-pandemic pricing? Absolutely not. That is preposterous to even think so. Even like I bought a house, like I said, I bought the house for $130,000 in Orlando. The guy who bought my house bought it for $225,000 or $235,000, which was stupid. Like it was dumb, but that wasn't even at the height. The height of that market was 285 back in 2007. He did take a deduction on that house. He actually ended up getting a restructured loan at 185. That's the lowest it ever went to. It never went back to that $120,000. Never, ever, ever. And Eddie and I had only bought it a year prior to that. So,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The other people that it's the conversations are hard to have are the older people, right? Like the people who are, the widow who you they've lived in the same place for 40 years. And she's like, I can't take care of this. I need to sell, but where am I going to go?
They're in a
Those
hard
are
place right
tough.
now because the
They
end
are.
of life care is super, super expensive. So even
Yeah.
if they're like, you know what, I can't maintain this house anymore, it's just too much for me to go get a nursing home or assisted living. It is like you are selling your soul to the devil. Everything you have is gone in
Yeah.
no time. And God forbid you live longer than it was anticipated, right? Because they have nickel dimed you to death. End of life care is extremely expensive. And that's why I don't blame a lot of people for looking into the reverse mortgage thing. I mean, like, I don't care. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't need to leave my kids crap. They didn't do nothing to earn it. And if this is what's going to keep me alive until the day I die, that's what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I'm actually, I'm not going to disclose much, but there's a scenario with reverse mortgage helping. And, I'm helping, and mom passed away. And
Mhm.
they're like, okay, so 30 days to get the death certificate, then 30 days to end, like the pressure to get that thing sold. That's tough. And yes, it from an inventory standpoint, like, okay, well, we'll get some inventory from some of that. But I wonder, really curious actually, how many reverse mortgages are out there? How often do we do them? It
They
puts some
they have been
backwards.
predicting what they call the silver tsunami for what? I mean, like, honestly, for 10 years. They were saying that baby
Hmm.
boomers were going to be going into these end of life care. They're going to be selling their little houses and the houses up north. They're going to be moving to Florida, and we're going to see an influx of smaller homes, that need to be revamped. And sure, there's a small portion, but it wasn't the tsunami they anticipated. Do you know what boomers did? They kept those houses and they rented them out.
Yeah.
And not only that, they bought 2 more houses with the income. Like, boomers are not dumb. They are investment freaks, and they're not just satisfied with one piece of real estate. They're going to own a couple so they can either A, hand it down, or B, just take it all with them.
So true.
That was some of the biggest buyers during this last housing, like, hurrah, we're baby boomers. We're baby boomers.
Yeah.
And they were
That's
buying their second and third properties.
Yeah. Over at the coast or in the
Mhm.
mountains, getting
Yep.
there. Yeah. Do you think they tried to Airbnb them?
I think there's various reasons. I think some of them wanted vacation homes. I think other ones were looking for investment properties. Other ones were just looking for opportunities. There are various reasons.
Do- Yeah. Do you think Airbnb's dead yet? Is it dying? Is it going to die?
The Airbnb business, if it was to fall apart tomorrow, the anticipation of it causing a massive effect on the housing market is, you need to look at your numbers.
It's overly
There
stated. Yeah.
isn't that many Airbnbs throughout the country. Honest
Yeah.
to God. I was going to do a video. I'm like, oh, this is going to cause a problem. And then when I actually pulled up the numbers of how many Airbnbs are across the United States, it's not that big of a deal. If Airbnb was to go out tomorrow, in those short-term rentals in like places like Orlando and around the beach, they'll resell. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Honest to God. The ones that need to, like, check themselves before they wreck themselves is the ones in the middle of Nowhereville, Tennessee, high
Totally.
on a mountain. If that business went under for you, who's going to buy it?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Airbnb. So 2.9 million hosts worldwide.
worldwide.
Yeah.
Worldwide, and the most of their inventory for Airbnb is on the higher end of real estate. We think of it as, cheap little houses, but they're not. They're
No.
totally
The-
not. And not only that, like, a lot. This is another thing about corporate investors. Even the Hilton, and all those major hotels have houses that you can rent. So, like, even they're buying homes.
yeah. Totally. Yep. And they're snatching them up in certain areas. So, like on the Oregon coast, they're buying all the homes right next to the hotels,
Yeah.
and then they're branding it, and just feels
And
very much like
houses.
you're staying in their hotel. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yep.
It's yeah. So that Airbnb component, the baby boomers, like all that stuff is not. It's just not going to tip the needle because I mean, baby boomers or those people who might be, even reverse like that we talked about the reverse mortgage people, they're not in such a situation that they're going to be able to sell. It's not going to be a flood. There's only I just looked up the numbers of like 40,000 reverse mortgages a year, so it's not like the numbers aren't going to tip the scale.
Unless like there was this electronic pulse that all of a sudden just eliminated all the baby boomers at once, like some weird anomaly from CERN or whatever. Like,
I like that, and it somehow is on the wavelength of everyone who was born between 1950 and
right,
19.
right.
Yeah, just
Yeah, there's a cusp on July 9th, 1937.
I love how dark it gets so quickly, Christina. I love it's just like it's so good. I
My
like it.
imagination runs wild.
I love it. It's amazing. Hey, before we kind of wrap up, I wanted to just say thank you for all that you do for like those of us who are doing the real estate YouTube thing, and like just the help that you provide, your experience, like the lessons you've learned. You're always willing to pass those along. That's cool.
We're fed a lot of crap to buy as real estate agents. We're $500 to death. Anybody who's not a real estate agent, I will be honest with you, we are $500 to death. Like, oh, buy this, download this, buy this, sign up for this. Oh, it's a 30-day challenge. It's free, but it's really not because it's $500 at the end or $500 death. And a lot of that's a lot of nonsense and easy, quick money. And I would never, I just didn't want that to happen to other people what happened to me. And so I always was like, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest that I had a group that I started. It was not doing well. Malcolm comes in. He helps get that group really kick-started, really going. I think it had like 1,300 people on it, maybe 2,000. I don't know. It was garbage. It wasn't doing well. Malcolm gets on there. He makes a few posts. Then all of a sudden, like all these people started coming out of the woodwork. And Malcolm and I have been running that group together for quite some time. And I don't know.
You're talking about the real estate.
Yeah, that real estate YouTube
mastermind.
mastermind. And he has a YouTube course. And I just came out with a YouTube course. And
is it out?
You can sign. You can pre-register. You can pre-register.
Be the first crew.
There's no money involved right now.
Ooh.
Pre-registered, yeah.
Okay, so
it's not in there. It's not in there. It's on my personal Facebook page.
Okay. I just had your personal. There you are.
There I am. That was a story about a girl who wanted to know, like, if she caught a unicorn, like, would she have to bring it to the zoo or whatever? So they basically sent her a certificate that she could own a unicorn.
Very kind.
Yeah, but that isn't the link. If you scroll down a bit, I think it's the next one down. Not that one either.
That's also a fun one.
Yeah, so there it is. That's it. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
I did not know this. What?
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh no. Okay, so I'm not going to play it now, but I do. Yeah, I can't wait. I think that, I appreciate you because you're so right. Like right before we got on this call, I got a call from somebody at the local farmer's market who wants to put my face on a reusable bag for $750.
Oh yeah. Or the grocery carts. I always love they're like, oh, it really gets your name out there. I'm like, y'all, like, you think we're stupid when it comes to marketing. Years ago, I had somebody talk me into a billboard. What the hell does a billboard do? I mean, honest to God, unless you're already in the industry where people recognize you, they're just going to keep driving past you. But when you're brand new and you just got your mug up there, they're like, who the hell's that girl? That was so
right?
stupid. So stupid.
Yeah. Oh, so
I never did grocery cart advertising.
Somebody does though, because you'll see them, right? Every once in a while you'll see it and you're like, oh man, somebody.
Do you know what I think when I see it? Sucker.
Speaking of suckers, before we go, 2023, what do you think? What's your final prediction? Like
My what prediction?
Your final prediction for housing market, for the residential kind of housing market this year. What's your final guess?
My prediction is that homes that are which I call McMansion's second homes, they're probably going to take the most of the hit when it comes to price reductions. But anybody in that first time home buyer, brand new home buyer space is not going to see the reduction in home price like they're hoping for. And you're not going to see as many concessions as you were hoping for either. And that sucks. That sucks.
You think concessions are going to slow down? Maybe a little bit.
If interest rates continue to go down the way that they have been, yes, I think that the home sellers will have the advantage. The good thing for a home buyer right now is that home sellers won't know they have the advantage. And hopefully they have a really crummy real estate agent on the other side. This is sell it now, take everything you get. You never know. It's all coming down. Did you watch that stupid YouTube video? It's going down 40% next month.
Take it now. Let's go. Yeah, that'd be great because first-time home buyers are a lot of fun to work with. But it's their energy is awesome and they're just great people. But it's a daunting task sometimes.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you're awesome. You're amazing. I can't wait to do your course. And let's go. I'm gonna get us a deposit right now on one of the places on the line or the hectagon.
Be in the hectagon, or the line, or the hectagon, the octagon.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna live in the octagon.
You can go. I'm not going. I'm not gonna get my tongue cut out.
Bye, Kristina.
Bye.